What kept me going, though, was the thinnest strand of belief that someone somewhere knew about all this and was helping me, as if some great kindness was still beside me. That weekend I climbed out onto the roof beside my window and proceeded to cut back the vine rapidly overtaking the house and my bedroom window. When my housemate arrived home, he was livid about the unexpected gardening, his face turning bright red in rage as he told me how I should ask before trimming back any plants in the garden. "It'll grow back," I said, sounding unconcerned, but his anger, so unreasonable, frightened me. Later that week I had some vague idea that he would come in while I was sleeping and suffocate me with a pillow. I could picture it happening, although I was unsure why I thought this. The next night I woke 3 times, gasping for air, fighting to breathe, as if I'd been holding my breath in my sleep. So this is how they'll do it, I thought, panic-stricken. I'd completely given up on the idea that Ken had any affection for me. Maybe it was a passing thing, or maybe he was just a carrot to follow. I was now discovering the stick to stop me turning back. "I really need some time to myself tonight," I said to my housemate that evening after work. "I'm going to watch some movies here at home." I spoke carefully, deliberately. I walked down to the video store and rented out a handful of movies. But when I returned an hour later, the lounge room was full of his friends. This wasn't the first time he'd thwarted my request, wrestling for power. I went to the kitchen and made dinner, then returned to the lounge room with my videos. I planned to start watching the movies with the crowd in there or not. But when I walked back into the room, he was talking about his latest acting gig. His character had a wife with my name. "And I've got to kill Fiona," he said, grinning at me as I walked back into the lounge room. Everyone laughed at the connection. For a moment, though, I saw the face of the girl sitting next to him in the circle, and she looked horrified. "Thanks for letting me know," I said dryly, thinking that he might unwittingly be warning me. It may be a bluff, but if I believed it was real, then so too were the threats. The next day I drove home and walked into my mother's kitchen. "Something's happening and they're trying to kill me," I said, shaking. "Who?" she asked, blinking slowly. I realised I had a lot of backstory to cover. "It's got something to do with Ken, the movie star, but I think now it's much bigger than that," I said, getting louder. "I knew they were in this house too. I'm going to name names if I go down. This was my last card. I'd been quiet, but it wasn't enough, and I knew I wasn't in this alone. When I returned to the house, I drilled a hole through the wooden floor and I attached a bolt to the inside of the door. If only I could bolt my mind. Sometimes I woke with words in my head, words that leapt out over me the next day, as if I was shackled to them. Aware my mind was invaded, I never knew which thought was a double agent. A few days later I woke with the sentence in my head like the line of a song, "You are the bride in a green dress." I thought about it getting ready for work, and then later that evening while getting dinner ready, the line was still in my head. I went into the lounge room and lay on the couch and started watching television. The phone rang twice, then stopped. My housemate must have answered it. After a while he came into the room with a book. "I just remembered I wanted to show you this passage in the book," he said, handing it to me, standing over me as I read. The last line was the same line as the one I'd woken up with in my head. Interesting," I said, handing the book back to him, but I was terrified. When I did finally get up off the couch and walk down to the kitchen to make a drink before bed, he was standing there by the kettle as if waiting for me. He held out a blue mug for me to take, the same colour he was wearing, but I was wearing red. "Can I offer you redemption?" he asked gently. Redemption, like the email I'd received a few nights ago with a word in the subject line, a voucher for a clothing store selling a new safari-style range. "Take them on," it read in the advertising copy. I walked over to the shelf and took another cup down. Then gesturing with one hand towards the door, he said, "You can walk away any time." And so I did, again.